Hey guys, I'm recording an intro on my phone again, so forgive me for that one. This video is going to be about two kind of unsolved mysteries, the ones that I found interesting anyways. So as always, pull up a stump and turn out the lights and yeah, let's jump into it. I hope you enjoy the video. Thank you for watching. This next mystery takes us all the way to Panama, the Boru volcano to be exact, and the forest around it. It was April 1st, 2014, and two students from Amersfoort in the Netherlands had made plans to take a family dog on a walk through the forest around the volcano in Boquete, Panama. They spent upwards of 6 months planning the vacation and meant it to be a part vacation, part service trip. The two girls would be spending some time hiking as well as touring, and also some time volunteering with the local children, teaching them arts and crafts, and learning some Spanish while there as well. So as you can tell, it was going to be a busy vacation, full of lots of things to keep the two girls busy, and with any luck, help out some people and learn a new language while they're at it. The two women hiked around the Panamanian jungle for 2 weeks as part of their mission, part of their trip they were doing. They intended on staying the next 4 weeks with their host family to do some volunteering at a school that was also in the area. Kris and Lisanne wrote a Facebook post in which they talked about how they wanted to tour the local village. They also talked about meeting up and having brunch with two fellow Dutchmen before going out on the hike that they were going to take. Unfortunately, they would not be as lucky as we would have hoped, because when they took their host family's dog and started on a hike at 11 a.m. on the 1st of April, they would never be seen alive again. April the 1st, that night, the host family notices that something is wrong. The dog that the girls had taken on the hike returns home, but alone. The girls were missing. The family searched the area around their home but did not find them. They thought the girls might have decided to camp out on the trail, so they waited until morning to call authorities. April the 2nd, missing 1 day and 1 night. Kris and Lisanne missed an appointment with a tour guide who was to take them on a private walking tour of Boquete. After they did not show up, the family called the authorities. An aerial search of the forest was conducted. Searchers set out on foot to try and find the missing girls. The locals searched the more lightly wooded areas. April the 6th, missing 5 days. No trace of the women has been found. Fearing the worst, the families of the two girls fly to Panama, bringing detectives from the Netherlands in tow. The families, detectives, local police, and search dogs all searched the forest for 10 consecutive days. After 10 weeks, no sign or no trace of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon has been found. Police begin slowing their efforts, and then a local woman shows up and turns in a blue backpack, claiming to have found it out in a rice paddy among the banks of the river. Inside the backpack were 2 pairs of sunglasses, $83 cash, Froon's passport, a water bottle, 2 bras, Lisanne's camera, and both of the women's cell phones. The camera and phones were investigated immediately. The phones were in service for 10 days after they disappeared. Over 4 days, 77 attempts were made to contact the police. Both 112, the emergency number in the Netherlands, and 911, which is the emergency number in Panama and most other places, were tried. The first 2 calls were made just a few hours after they started on their hike. Due to them being in the jungle, there was no service. 1 call out of 77 managed to get through, but broke up after 2 seconds. On April the 6th, there were many incorrect attempts to unlock Kris's phone. By the 11th of April, both phones had gone dead. On the camera were photos taken on the morning of April the 1st when their hike started. These photos showed them near the Continental Divide. Another set of photos on the camera reveals something much, much worse. Taken between 1 and 4 a.m. on April the 8th, photos showed the women's belongings strewn out on the rocks. Candy wrappers, weird mounds of dirt, a mirror, and the back of Kris Kremers' head with blood coming from her temple. Police went to the area where the backpack had been recovered and found Kris's clothing neatly folded along the edge of the river. Months later in the same area, a pelvic bone and foot, still inside the boot, were found. Soon after, the bones of both women were discovered. Lisanne's remains looked as though they decomposed more naturally. Kris's looked as if they had been bleached. Locals, tour guides, other hikers, and other people who had been in the area were questioned extensively, but to this day, no one has any idea what kind of terrible fate met the girls on their trip to Panama. But what do you think happened? Were the girls attacked? Did the girls both get injured and get lost, eventually succumbing to their injuries? If so, why the picture of their stuff strewn out on the rocks, and blood coming from her temple? Let me know your theory down below. And just as a personal thing, I always find these stories extremely tragic, especially when they tried so hard to reach the police and didn't have the service needed for it. I know people sometimes have their rightful suspicions about phone networks and stuff, but I do think that there is still much work to be done in infrastructure, so that no matter where you are in the world, you have some way to call for help. I don't really have a solution for this, as I'm just a guy with opinions like everybody else. But maybe one day we'll find a way to keep nature the way it is, but also making it possible for more people to call for help when needed. So this one's probably been done before. I mean, it's YouTube, so it most definitely has, but I found the whole thing to be pretty wild, to be honest. So the story goes like this. On October 19th, 2000, Pakistani authorities were alerted to a videotape. The videotape was recorded by a man named Ali Akbar, and in the video he claimed to have a mummy for sale. So police questioned Ali, and he told them where the mummy was located. The mummy was found at a tribal leader's house. This man's name was Wali Muhammad Riki in Karan, Balochistan. Now, Balochistan is located near the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and Riki claimed that he had obtained the mummy from another man, an Iranian named Sharif Shah Baki. Now, Sharif claimed that he found the mummy in the aftermath of an earthquake that occurred near Quetta. Quetta is the capital and biggest city of Balochistan, a province in Pakistan. He had intended on selling it on the black antique market for approximately 600 million rupees, or about 11 million USD. Both Ali Akbar and Sharif were accused of violating Pakistan's Antiquities Act, which carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. And I don't know about all you guys, but I would really not want to go to prison there. On October 26th, Ahmad Hassan Dani of Islamabad's Quaid-e-Azam University, I doubt that I'm saying that right, said the mummy appeared to be a princess dated to circa 600 BC. The mummy was wrapped in the ancient Egyptian style. It was in a gilded wooden coffin with cuneiform carved on the inside of the stone sarcophagus. The coffin also adorned a large Zoroastrian image of the Furuhar, which was the predominant religion in Iran prior to the Muslim invasion in the 7th century. The mummy was on top of a layer of wax and honey, covered in a stone slab, and possessed a golden crown upon its brow. The inscription on the gold chest plate claimed the body was Rodagune, a daughter of Xerxes I of Persia, and was a member of the Achaemenid dynasty. Hassan Dani said that she might have been an Egyptian princess that married a Persian prince, or a daughter of the Achaemenid king Cyrus the Great. They had not encountered mummies like this before because mummification of this type had been primarily an Egyptian practice, so this was quite new to the Pakistani authorities. The governments of Iran and Pakistan eventually began to fight about who was the rightful owner of the mummy. The Iranian Cultural Heritage Organization claimed her as a member of Persian royal family and demanded the mummy's return. However, Pakistani's archaeological department said that it was theirs since it was found in Balochistan. The people of Balochistan wanted it to be returned there because they found it there, and the Taliban of Afghanistan also made a claim to it being theirs. However, just a month later, in November of 2000, the mummy was placed on display in the National Museum of Pakistan. And now, as with all things like this, eventually news begins to spread around the world, so this caught the attention of American archaeologist Oscar White Mascarella. Oscar described an incident the previous March when he was shown photographs of a similar mummy, when a man named Abinoli Righi A middleman working on behalf of an unidentified antiques dealer in Pakistan approached him, claiming its owners were a Zoroastrian family who had brought it to the country. The seller had claimed that it was the daughter of Xerxes I, based on a translation of the cuneiform on the golden breastplate. The message on the breastplate had been a passage from the Behistun inscription in western Iran, and I will put a link down to that below because it's pretty cool. It's a little side thing you can read if you like history like I do. However, when the dealer's representative had sent a piece of the coffin to be carbon dated, the analysis showed that the coffin was actually only about 250 years old. Since then, Muscarella expected a forgery and severed contact with the dealer. He had informed Interpol through the FBI. Eventually, a man named Ahmed Dani, who is the director of the Institute of Asian Civilizations in Islamabad and is also a Pakistani professor, actually got to study the item. He realized that the corpse was not as old as the coffin. The mat below the body was actually only about 5 years old. He contacted Asma Ibrahim, the curator of the National Museum of Pakistan, who investigated it further. And it only got worse after it turns out that the inscriptions on the breastplate were not proper grammar in Persian, they were a Greek form. And not only that, but the body was not mummified in the proper Egyptian custom. And the example given was that the heart was gone from the body, and during a traditional Egyptian mummification, they leave the heart in there but take the rest of the internal organs. And once again, not only that, but there were like tendons and other body parts that had not really decayed. So it turned out when Ibrahim published her report on April 17th, 2001, that the, quote, Persian princess was in fact a woman about 21 to 25 years of age who had died in 1996 and was probably killed by a blunt force trauma to the back, like lower back or pelvic region. Strangely enough, her teeth had been removed after her death, so it seems that her hip was broken, her pelvis was broken, and her back was broken. And from there, they filled the body with powder, as they usually do. So after this, police began to investigate possible murder and arrested a number of suspects in Balochistan. You have to wonder, who killed this woman? What were her final hours like? She was never named, so who was she? It's kind of a tragedy really, but it's still very much unsolved. The Eddy Foundation took custody of the body in August of 2005 and announced it was to be interred with proper burial rites. However, police and other government officials never really got around to it, and it wasn't until 2008 when the foundation finally was actually able to carry out the burial. So that one's kind of a tragedy really, because we don't know the woman's name, we don't know who killed her. I don't know how, but hopefully someday she will get the justice that she deserves.